Welcome to episode 2 of my Essence of PKing guide series. In this episode I'm going to cover a few more topics of PKing that are a little bit more advanced, but definitely good to learn. Make sure to check out the first video if you're looking to learn the absolute basics, but let's get right into it. In this episode I'm going to talk about melee PKing, PID, XP drops, and the lunar spell, Vengeance. One super important thing to know how to use correctly is the spell Vengeance, and Vengeance is a level 94 spell unlocked by the quest Lunar Diplomacy, which itself requires 40 defense. And Vengeance reflects damage back to the opponent. And so, take a look. If I cast Vengeance, and I have my friend attack me, he hit a 15 on me, which means that 75% of 15 is around 11. I'm not exactly sure how the rounding works, but it will deal that amount of damage times 0.75 back towards them. And that is super important for any sort of combos or any sort of execute, because it can add somewhere between 15 to even 50 damage if you hit them on their AGS spec. And so it's super important and super good to know how to use. The other thing is that Vengeance has a timer, and you can't just spam click it. So if you see when I cast it, Runelight gives me this 30-second timer up here in the corner. That means I can't use it until then, obviously. And so that means two things. One, you can't just click it as much as you want and just reflect all of the opponent's damage back to them. But also, you need to know when to use it so you don't waste it. You're probably only going to get 3 or 4, maybe 5 Vengeance opportunities in a fight, and so using it correctly is very important. And I'm going to go over a few great times to use Vengeance in a moment with some examples. But there's one last thing I want to show about it, and this is less useful just normal PKing. However, it's pretty useful for rushing, and sometimes it will have an effect in your game. Vengeance actually stops your movement, at least visually. So if I cast Vengeance, you'll see that my character will stand here for a little bit before going and doing anything. And that can be really useful rushing, because you can cast it and then go out and attack people without actually them seeing you run out. But your character is still actually moving. So watch this. If I wheel my Dragon Dagger spec and I cast Vengeance and attack him, you'll see that my character will be here, but the hit spots will show up before you even start running. See, my character's still here, he's running towards him, and then it showed up. And so that's something that you could possibly use, but you'll probably more just notice it happening in your fights accidentally. Let's just take a look at one of the best uses of Vengeance, and definitely one of the most easy and effective ways to use it, and that's using it right before you go in for a spec. And so I'm just going to go over this clip and kind of what I was thinking and kind of what everything is doing in the clip. First thing is that I noticed that he's at 70 health, which means that probably one big arrow and an AGS would be able to kill him. Second is that my next hit is an 84, and so an 84 XP drop, which means probably a 14 or 15 arrow, which is pretty good to go in on. And so I immediately cast my Vengeance and then AGS spec click. I misclicked him a little bit there, but I still got it. I hit a 50 with my AGS, which leaves him at 6 health. However, he randomly takes this 11 damage, and what could that 11 damage be from? That ended up killing him. That 11 damage is from his last arrow, right before this arrow right here that's flying through the air hit my Vengeance and hit a 15, which reflected 11 damage back to him. That's this 15 here on me, and it ended up dealing 11 damage back to him and ended up killing him. Otherwise, he'd be left at 6 health. So that's just an example why Vengeance is so strong, and really kind of shows that you need to be able to use it correctly in order to get kills. If I hadn't casted Vengeance here, he would have lived. One of the other major uses of Vengeance is using it against the opponent's special attack. And this works, of course, because if they hit very high on their special attack, your Vengeance will rebound a lot of damage. And so a couple things happen in this clip which are noteworthy. The first one being Vengeance, and really anything in RuneScape actually, in terms of your UI, has a neat option where if you right click on the spell or on the prayer or on the weapon you want to equip, you can actually hover over the box that shows up and still switch tabs while it remains there. And so you see that I right click on my Vengeance, hover over it, and press F2, which is my key from my inventory. That will go to my inventory and I can see everything I want to do in here if I want to eat, but I'll also still be able to cast Vengeance by clicking this. The next thing I notice is that he starts running at me, which means that there's a good chance he's about to spec, which means that if I cast Vengeance, I will be able to get my Vengeance on his spec and rebound a lot of damage. This was his arrow. This was a 20 arrow, bringing me down to 57, which he can hit. However, it's on the high end of things. He hits a 46 with his AGS. I had casted my Vengeance, rebounding 34 damage back to him, and this 14 is from the arrow that I had shot before. A pretty easy kill and a good example of when using Vengeance against the opponent's special attack is really strong. Melee PKing is definitely another option to try out if you want to. It's a lot more simple than ranged melee, and it's kind of a good place to learn. However, you can't rely on your arrow to melee stack, like you can with ranged to melee PKing, and so you're relying entirely on Vengeance. And so here's a good example of me killing someone in a melee fight. I had a very big scimitar, however, he doesn't eat too high after that. In fact, he doesn't seem to be eating at all. There we go. So he's up to 52 health, which isn't too high. And so he is using an Abyssal Tentacle, which is very, very accurate. And so I think there's a good chance that he's going to attack me here. And so what I do is I do the right-click trick I was showing you before, cast Vengeance, and then one-tick my AGS. And so here, at the exact same time, he hits me at 27 with his whip, and I AGS him at 62. And, a beautiful stack all at the same time. And it just kind of shows you that, melee PKing can work. You just have to rely on Vengeance, and it teaches you to use it correctly. The last thing I want to mention before I end this episode is a neat thing about Vengeance that you can use to get a lot of kills. And the idea is that Vengeance's damage back to the opponent does not happen until one tick after the actual damage is hit. In this example, I'm at 50 health, and he is about to whack me with his AGS. The max hit with an AGS is about 56 in his gear, probably somewhere around there, without the spec. And so I'm pretty confident sitting on 50 HP that he probably won't hit that. And so instead what I do is I cast my Vengeance. That hits him down to 30. Okay, so now he's at 37 health. A couple things happen here. I think he's probably going to whack me again because a lot of people do that. They just try to whack you over and over with their AGS, hoping to get a high hit and maybe a smite. And so what I do is I risk it and I just try to AGS him. That's what I've just done now. I'm going to one-tick the AGS here. Wield, spec, click. And then we notice that he actually used his own Vengeance, which is a problem because I'm only on 10 HP, and if I hit anything over like a 15, it's going to kill me. I'm going to end up killing myself. However, here's the trick with Vengeance. Because it has a little bit of delay before the damage is actually rebounded, you can teleport during that time. So what you want to do is right after you see the XP drop from your own weapon that you're going to try to hit him with, teleport away, and you won't take his own Vengeance damage. He is Venged right now, and you'll see that when I hit him with my 48 AGS, he yells Taste Vengeance, which means that it went off. However, I TP away before he's actually able to deal the damage back. Watch that again. Click, see that, and I teleport away. And, I'm completely safe, and that's only because I was able to teleport away right before his Vengeance damage came back and hit me. There are a ton of videos out there that talk about PID and how it works, but the basic rundown is that PID stands for Player ID. When you attack another player, you might notice that sometimes your hit shows up a little bit before it does otherwise. So watch this. If I click attack, you saw that the attack showed up quite early. However, if I have my opponent attack me, see how the kick happened and then the hit splat showed up? That means that I have PID because my hit splat showed up a lot earlier than his. And so if you both attack on the same tick, that means that we will end up having the same kick animations at the same time. My attack will actually go off first. And that can be strong if you both go in for a spec at the same time. I'm going to win if I have PID and he will win if he has PID. However, here's the truth about it. You don't need to worry about it one bit. It might affect about 1 out of 25 of your fights, but it's not worth getting worked up over. In the high-risk community and in staking, it's a huge thing. It is the deciding factor in a lot of fights. However, to start off with, don't worry about it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Any feedback you guys have in the comments is very much appreciated. If you really enjoyed the video, please subscribe and like. Next video, I'm going to be talking all about the Granite Maul, which is probably the weapon with the highest skill cap in the entire game and can be super fun to use. Until then, see you guys next time.